they are delivering. And this year's report is not only the first one since Green Deal, it is also the first one since the delivery and assessment of the final national energy and climate plans. There will be many opportunities to engage with member states, stakeholders and of course with the European Parliament in the coming month on our clean energy transformation and its challenges. And I trust that this report is a good basis to kick off such a dialogue. As already mentioned to you during my introduction, the State of the Energy Union contains important additional reports, and notably, let me highlight again the first competitiveness report that is part of the State of the Energy Union. It shows that clean energy is outperforming the conventional energy technologies. Also, price of renewables has come down significantly, and energy efficiency first principle and renovation wave helps us to create jobs across all the EU. So lower heating bills for households, and it also helps us save energy. And energy poverty across the EU has declined, but this is still 34 million people too many who struggle to afford comfortable temperature at their homes. So Green Deal and the clean energy transition is an opportunity also for the economy to relaunch investment and jobs. Our programme for the next years will strongly build on these conclusions, and we have just adopted the renovation wave, the hydrogen strategy, and we will very soon present our offshore renewable strategy. But we also made a commitment to look and assess all our basic instruments when it comes to energy efficiency and renewables. All of these actions are now part of our work programme for 2021. And this is what the Green Deal means: a cleaner, more competitive, fairer Europe. The EU's current framework would not allow us to reach our 2050 goals and meet our commitments under the Paris Agreement. Simply continuing to implement the clean energy package would see the EU achieving a 60% reduction of greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. This is not enough to get the Paris Agreement. The EU needs to raise its ambition for this decade now. And the impact assessment we have conducted shows that balanced, realistic pathway to climate neutrality by 2050 requires an emission reduction target of 55% by 2030. This is why the Commission proposes to cut emissions faster by 2030. Honourable members of the European Parliament, now let me briefly also touch upon the importance of nuclear safety, because I received yesterday a letter from 40 members of parliament expressing their concerns regarding the safety of the Ostrovets nuclear power plant in Belarus. I would like to reiterate the Commission's commitment to ensuring the highest levels of nuclear safety globally, and especially in the EU's closest neighbourhood. In the case of Ostrovets power plant, this means verifying that all key safety recommendations from the European Nuclear Safety Regulators Group are implemented prior to the start of commercial operations of the power plant in early 2021. The November 7th event is a one-off operation to test the generation of a small quantity of electricity. The peer review by NSREG's nuclear safety experts is well underway. It is important that the experts are able to complete their work, which would allow them to draw their own independent conclusions. The peer review is expected to be completed prior to the commercial operation of the plant. The Commission is making great efforts to maintain engagement with Belarus in this regard. However, we will need to operate within the current political realm of the political developments in Belarus. Nonetheless, the Commission is prepared to apply increased political pressure should we see that the key recommendations are not implemented before the start of the commercial operation of the plant. This is also about our energy union. Thank you.
Danke, Frau Kommissarin. Sie bleiben ja bei uns. Die Aussprache zu diesem Tagesordnungspunkt ist damit geschlossen. Wir kommen zum nächsten Punkt unserer Tagesordnung. Wir bleiben beim Green Deal. Wir kommen zur Erklärung der Kommission über die Anpassung des Vertrages über die Energiecharta an den europäischen Grünen Deal. Ich möchte Sie davon in Kenntnis setzen, dass bei sämtlichen Aussprachen, wie bekannt, weder spontane Wortmeldungen noch blaue Karten oder Wortmeldungen zur Geschäftsordnung akzeptiert werden können. und wir werden auch bei dieser Debatte Kolleginnen und Kollegen, die online ihre Wortmeldung aus den Verbindungsbüros abgeben, zuschalten. Sie wissen ebenfalls, dass im Laufe dieser Debatte zum Tagesordnungspunkt Präsident Sassoli kommen wird, um uns nach der Sitzung der Konferenz der Präsidenten den Gewinner des Sakharov Preises mitzuteilen. Wir beginnen diesen Tagesordnungspunkt mit der Erklärung der Kommission. Frau Kommissarin, Sie haben das Wort.
President, honourable members of the European Parliament, I would like to thank you for this opportunity to debate on this important topic today. The Energy Charter Treaty is in need of substantial reform. In the past years, the European Union, including this Parliament and the Member States, have repeatedly called for a modernisation of the Charter. The need for reform is also considered necessary by most of the other contracting parties. Based on its negotiating mandate, the Commission has engaged in this negotiation with determination and a clear position. However, we know that a successful modernisation of the Energy Charter Treaty will be a challenge, and it will require that all the contracting parties and stakeholders contribute to this collective result. For the EU, the objective of greening the Energy Charter Treaty is at the heart of the modernisation process. Member States have given the Commission a mandate to negotiate, which reflects the EU's reformed investment protection standards and ensures strong sustainable development provisions. The Commission also has a duty to make the Energy Charter future-proof, so it can help us address climate change and clean energy transition goals and facilitate a transition to a low-carbon energy system in line with the objectives of the Paris Agreement. With the adoption of the European Green Deal and the EU commitment to move to climate neutrality by 2050, the European Commission has now stepped up its climate ambitions. Once confirmed by the co-legislators, the revised greenhouse gas emissions reduction targets for 2030 will need to be reflected in our negotiations. A level of ambition, as proposed by the Commission for at least 55% greenhouse gas reduction, requires transposition in concrete actions, including in external dimension of the EU energy and climate policies. Honourable members, let me update you on the progress of the Energy Charter's treaty modernisation process. The negotiations with the Energy Charter's contracting parties have started in 2020. We had 2 rounds of negotiations so far in July and September. A third round is scheduled for 3rd until 6 November. Another round is already planned for the end of February or March 2021. Based on the negotiating directives adopted by the Council in July 2019, the Commission submitted in advance of the first round of negotiations a proposal addressing specifically investment protection and dispute settlement. The text proposed also puts forward new provisions on sustainable development in the area of climate change and clean energy transition in particular. These provisions recognise the urgent need of pursuing the Paris Agreement in order to effectively combat climate change and its impacts, and to regulate to that effect at national level. Our ambition in the modernisation reflects the EU's leading role in ensuring that the energy transition happens also in partner countries, in line with Paris Agreement goals. For this reason, we will proceed with a pragmatic and realistic approach to ensure successful outcomes. The complex negotiations ahead of us involve a variety of factors and require increased cooperation and accelerated efforts in order to achieve the necessary consensus among all contracting parties, some of which are at different stages of development of their energy and climate policies. We can trust that the European Green Deal is at the core of our EU policy. It is our political aim to ensure that the Energy Charter Treaty only protects those investments that support transition to a climate neutral energy system. We want to make the European Charter a tool also for a clean energy transition that is aligned with our EU agenda and with our collective goals under the Paris Agreement. We count on the European Parliament to support us in this process. Thank you.
Frau Kommissarin, herzlichen Dank. Nachdem Sie die Beschlusslage des Europäischen Parlaments kennen, wissen Sie, dass wir ein mehr als ehrgeiziger Partner bei diesen Zielsetzungen sind. Ich darf in die Debatte eintreten und wiederum Frau Maria Spyraki das Wort erteilen.
Thank you, Mr. President, Commissioner Simpson. The Energy Charter Treaty provides a multilateral framework for energy cooperation that is unique under the international law. Today, 81% of investments protected by the Energy Charter Treaty are intra-EU investments. However, it is important to recognise that the treaty is outdated, notably when it comes to arbitration clause between foreign investors and member states. The treaty must reinstate Europe's right to regulate, particularly on the issue of climate change. We must insist on the establishment of the Multilateral Investment Code. Our response to the voices asking to withdraw collectively from the Energy Charter Treaty in order to allow for the implementation of Europe's clean energy package must be a deep revision of the treaty addressing the Paris Agreement deals and aligning with our Green Deal roadmap in order to reshape our economy into green and digital. And finally, secure that this alignment will provide sustainable and affordable energy prices for all consumers. But we are not naive. Unanimity requires compromise. We must work multilaterally and finally concluding a forward-looking Energy Charter Treaty with a clear provision of phasing out of fossil fuels, with safeguarding of energy security through the operation of more open and competitive energy markets, while respecting the principles of sustainable development and sovereignty over energy resources. Thank you, Mr. President.
Danke. Unsere nächste Sprecherin ist unsere Kollegin Frau Kathleen van Brempt.
Danke schön. Dear colleagues, Mrs. Commissioner, let me be quite crystal clear. The Energy Charter Treaty is not in line with the Green Deal. It's an instrument of the past. It's even an instrument of a former decade. Favouring large fossil fuel companies over the environment is not the way forward. It's not adapted to the current reality and not to our climate ambitions. Has been stated also in the former debate, there's a fundamental reform necessary in our energy system, and we will not succeed doing that if the ECT continues to protect fossil fuel investments. Moreover, and that is very interesting and very frightening to see, that it is expected that more cases targeting climate policies will arise once member states start to implement the commitments that they have made in line with the Green Deal and the Paris Agreement, and that is unacceptable. So we need a fundamental reform of the ECT. This will not be easy, as for instance Japan already stated that it is not in favour of a fundamental reform. And I want to be also crystal clear on what the next step should be, that if it is not possible to have a fundamental reform, I think it's absolutely necessary that the EU prepares itself to withdraw from the ECT. And we've made that also clear in a former debate and a former vote on the climate law, where we clearly made statement on the ECT. So my question to the Commission is very simple. You think it is possible to align the ECT in the Green Deal? I do not doubt the good intentions that you have, Mrs. Commissioner, and the Commission overall, but I do doubt that we have the good partners in place to make that reform possible. And will you be able and ready to withdraw from the treaty the moment that you see there's no possibility for a good reform?
Danke. Nun hat Herr Martin Hojsík das Wort.
Danke sehr, sehr geehrter Vorsitzender. Dear Commissioner, it's great that we are having this debate, but this should be only the start. We need to put the spotlight on the Energy Charter Treaty and ensure that it receives the attention that it needs. And it deserves the attention because, as they say, Houston, we have a problem. Problem that a treaty that only experts know about can cost us billions in compensation for private companies, often shell companies, if we want to prevent catastrophic climate change. Cost us public money that we urgently need to avert the climate crisis. Because the Energy Charter Treaty, as it stands, it's not, and I repeat, not compatible with the European Green Deal, nor several international legally binding commitments, let's say, for example, the Paris Agreement. We have a problem if we, for example, invest now in gas and in 20 years we need to shut it down because we have available alternative and run out of the carbon budget. What do we do then? Start compensating all the investors? To put it simple, we cannot and should not protect investments into fossil fuels. The risk of climate crisis is already known to all the investors. They don't need the protection and they should not get it. Now, this is where you might expect me to tell you the solution, but I will not. Right now, I want the Commission and the Member States to tell us, the citizens of Europe, what you want to do about it. You want to renegotiate. That's good to hear. But what do you do if the negotiations fail? Because when it comes to climate, we cannot afford to fail. We would not be forgiven. Thank you.
Danke vielmals. Ich erteile Herrn Markus Buchheit das Wort.
Danke, Herr Vorsitzender. Frau Kommissarin, welcome back. Schon scheint es, als ob die Fridays for Future Demos langsam von den Titelseiten der Boulevardblätter verschwunden wären. Doch zombieartig hallen ihre Forderungen hier im Alltagsgeschäft der Union fort. Welchen Wahnsinn muss uns als politische Entscheidungsträger reiten, den in seinen Ausmaßen noch gar nicht überschaubaren exogenen Schock der globalen Pandemie durch den Grünen Deal noch weiter anzufachen? Wir reden hier von einem Alignment mit dem Green Deal. Wunderbare Worte. Sie verkaufen den Bürgern die vielbeschworene grüne Wende hier als das europäische Man-on-the-Moon-Projekt, als absolute Notwendigkeit, jetzt sofort mit CO2-Reduktionen von 55 oder 60%, ganz egal, ohne Folgenabschätzungen, was für Auswirkungen diese Zahlen auf unsere Industrie und Gesellschaft tatsächlich haben werden. Schon heute ist der Strompreis für unsere Industrie in Deutschland fast dreimal so hoch wie in den USA und er wird weiter steigen. Das wird uns Wettbewerbsfähigkeit, am Schluss natürlich auch Wohlstand kosten. Das wissen Sie bei der Kommission und deswegen wird eine absurde Idee durch die nächste absurde Idee ergänzt. Und zwar der Green Deal zum Beispiel durch den Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism oder wie wir jetzt heute auch gehört haben, durch den Ausstieg aus dem ECT. Haben wir jahrelang hier in der EU andere Staaten für Protektionismus und Isolationismus verurteilt, so betreiben wir diesen jetzt selber. Frau Kommissarin, Sie haben vorhin vom Glauben an den Green Deal gesprochen. Glauben ist schön, doch was sind die Zahlen? Was werden uns diese Maßnahmen am Schluss tatsächlich kosten? Herzlichen Dank.
Unsere nächste Rednerin ist Frau Anna Cavazzini.
Thank you, Mr. President, and hello, Commissioner. Whenever I speak to citizens about the Energy Charter Treaty, they are shocked. The Energy Charter Treaty allows investors to bring EU member states in front of private arbitration panels because those governments want to fulfill the requirements of the Paris Agreement. The Energy Charter Treaty makes governments pay billions of taxpayers' money just because they want to fight the climate crisis and implement the Green Deal. And does this sound completely insane? Yes, it does, but it is the truth. And the Energy Charter Treaty is the embodiment of a fossil era that has to come to an end. And this is why the reform by the Commission is so overdue and also welcomed. But, Mrs. Commissioner, I have two major concerns. First, we need an effective reform. So the Commission must delete fossil fuels from the definition of economic activities and thus end the protection of fossil fuels. And second, we have to face the reality. An effective reform is very unlikely given the anonymity required. So I urge the Commission to set a clear deadline and prepare for leaving the treaty. And I know, Mrs. Commissioner, you will come now with a sunset clause. Yes, the sunset clause is bad. It protects investment for another 20 years if we leave the Energy Charter Treaty now. But better leaving earlier than later. At the very least, we need to end inner EU application and thus eliminate already half of the cases. I count on your support.
Danke vielmals. Frau Beata Schidlow, Sie haben jetzt eine Minute.
Dziękuję bardzo, panie przewodniczący, szanowna pani komisarz. Realia polityki energetycznej i klimatycznej zmieniają się bardzo szybko. Rośnie potrzeba zacieśniania współpracy regionalnej i globalnej w tym zakresie. W ciągu tylko 5 ostatnich lat przyjęliśmy porozumienia paryskie, została ogłoszona strategia Zielonego Ładu, a więc rzeczą naturalną jest, że musimy również przystąpić do zmiany, jeżeli chodzi o traktat karty energetycznej. Ale powinniśmy to czynić realistycznie, szczególnie teraz w trudnym momencie, kiedy jest kryzys spowodowany pandemią, kiedy liczy się każde miejsce pracy, kiedy trzeba wspierać gospodarkę. A więc te postulaty, które będą przyświecały modernizacji traktatu, powinny być postulatami realistycznymi. Musimy chronić inwestycje, musimy dokonywać tych zmian, ale zgodnie z tymi strategiami, które już zostały wypracowane, mając przede wszystkim na myśli w tej chwili wsparcie gospodarki. Dziękuję bardzo.
Danke vielmals. Für 1 Minute 30 hat Frau Silvia Modig das Wort.
Arvoisa puhemies, kun ECT-sopimusta nyt ollaan modernisoimassa, on välttämätöntä, että se saadaan tukemaan siirtymää kohti hiilineutraaleja yhteiskuntia. Tällä hetkellä se ei sitä tee, vaan päinvastoin. Se antaa yhtiöille mahdollisuuden nostaa kanne niitä valtioita vastaan, jotka haluavat muuttaa lainsäädäntöään ja siten energiapalettiaan kohti kestävää hiilineutraalia mallia. Sopimuksen investointisuoja suojaa fossiilisia polttoaineita huolimatta siitä, että me tiedämme, että ne merkittävästi pahentavat ilmastokriisiä. Tämän lisäksi investointisuojalauseke sisältää valtavan ongelman demokratian kannalta. Lainsäädännön muutoksia tekevät hallitukset, jotka ovat päässeet valtaan vaaleissa, kansan tahdosta. Kun yhtiöille investointisuojan nimissä annetaan mahdollisuus kyseenalaistaa nämä demokraattiset päätökset, annetaan niille oikeus kyseenalaistaa kansan vaaleissa antama mielipide. Tälläkin hetkellä yhtiöt voivat pitää hallituksia panttivankinaan uhkaamalla välimiesmenettelyllä, jos kyseinen valtio haluaisi esimerkiksi kieltää kivihiilen käytön. Se mahdollistaa sen, että ilmastotoimia estetään, vesitetään tai hylätään siinä pelossa, että ne johtavat miljardien eurojen kanteeseen. Kun hyväksyimme ilmastolain, hyväksyimme sen kirjauksen, jonka mukaan kaiken politiikkamme on oltava linjassa ilmastolain tavoitteiden kanssa, eli Pariisin sopimuksen kanssa, kuten ilmastolaissa kirjoitetaan. ECT-sopimus on täydessä ristiriidassa Green Dealin tavoitteiden kanssa. Se ei sisällä minkäänlaisia tavoitteita päästöjen vähentämiseksi tai ilmastokriisin ratkaisemiseksi. Ja tämän on muututtava perustuslaatuisella tavalla. Komissaari, oletteko valmis luopumaan ja irtautumaan sopimuksesta, mikäli yksimielisyyttä perustavanlaatuisista muutoksista ei riittävässä aikataulussa saada? Kiitos.
Herzlichen Dank, Frau Kollegin. Nun zugeschaltet ist Frau Glavak-Sunčana.
Hvala lijepa predsjedavajući, srdačan pozdrav iz Zagreba. Zastarjele odredbe ugovora o energetskoj povelji trebaju se modernizirati u skladu s posljednjim ciljevima Europske komisije u namjeri da se ograniči utjecaj klimatskih promjena. Kako bi se zapravo dao doprinos postizanju klimatskih ciljeva zacrtanih u Pariškom sporazumu u ciljevima održivog razvoja te ambicijama Europske unije, ECT bi trebao poticati ulaganja u održivu energiju s niskim udjelom ugljika, a jednako tako i podržati mjere za promicanje pravedne tranzicije. Međutim, u svjetlu hitne potrebe za klimatskim djelovanjem, ono što ECT stvarno treba, temeljita je preinaka. Današnja rasprava, vjerujem, možda može pozitivno utjecati ne samo na razmišljanje o nužnim promjenama za ostvarenje klimatskih ciljeva, nego i na druge odredbe ECT-a koje imaju također značajan negativni utjecaj na međunarodni pravni poredak. Moramo zaustaviti ulaganja u fosilna goriva i ukloniti nepovoljne odredbe koje zapravo investitorima daju mogućnost podnošenja tužbi protiv država pred privatnim arbitražnim sudovima. O tome smo već danas nešto čuli. Najveći izazov možda s kojima se države članice suočavaju jest klauzula o zaštiti investitora. Ona naime omogućuje da u slučaju promjene politike ili regulative imaju pravo na naknadu štete ako se nisu u mogućnosti realizirati investiciju. Ova klauzula često se zloupotrebljava. Prema podacima tajništva ECT-a ukupno su uložene 134 tužbe energetskih tvrtki protiv država, a gotovo polovica postupaka još uvijek traje. Zaključit ću, Europska unija se temelji na vladavini prava i poštivanju pozitivnih zakonskih propisa. Interesi naših građana moraju biti prioritet. Hvala vam lijepa.
Thank you very much, meine Damen und Herren. Liebe Kolleginnen und Kollegen, ich kann im Moment nicht mit der Debatte fortfahren, weil ich jetzt unterbreche für das Announcement des Präsidenten zum Preisträger des neuen Sakharov Preises. Wir setzen nach dieser Mitteilung sofort mit der Debatte wieder fort.
Un grande onore informarvi che la conferenza dei presidenti ha deciso di conferire il premio Sakharov per la libertà di pensiero ai rappresentanti dell'opposizione bielorussa. Il Consiglio di coordinamento e l'iniziativa delle donne coraggiose, Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, Svetlana Aleksevich, Maria Kalesnikava, Vola Kavalloka, Veronika Psakala, le personalità della politica e della società civile Sergei Tsikhanouski, Ales Bialinski, Sergei Dilewski, Tsipian Puzzilla e Mikola Statevich. Le massicce proteste di piazza in Bielorussia che hanno commosso il mondo sono in corso ormai da 11 settimane. Man mano che cresce la nostra ammirazione nei confronti della popolazione bielorussa, cresce anche il nostro sgomento per le violenti rappresaglie di Lukashenko, per i suoi atti di tortura, per la negazione della verità. Concedetemi di ribadire quanto già affermato dalle nostre istituzioni e dal Parlamento, con una sola voce. Il Governo e il Presidente hanno perso le elezioni ed è giunto il momento di ascoltare la voce del suo popolo. Ma cosa più importante, desidero congratularmi con i rappresentanti dell'opposizione bielorussa per il loro coraggio, la loro resilienza, la loro determinazione. Essi incarnano quotidianamente la difesa della libertà di pensiero e di espressione che il premio Sakharov gratifica. Si sono dimostrati e continuano a dimostrarsi forti di fronte a un avversario molto potente. Ma ciò che li sostiene è qualcosa che la violenza non potrà mai sconfiggere, cioè la verità. Ecco dunque il mio e il nostro messaggio a voi, cari vincitori del premio. Continuate ad essere forti, a non rinunciare alle vostre battaglie, noi saremo al vostro fianco. Sappiate che siamo con voi, spero di potervi naturalmente accogliere presto in Parlamento per consegnarvi il premio che oggi vi abbiamo assegnato. Vorrei aggiungere una parola anche sulla recente uccisione di uno dei finalisti di quest'anno, il signor Arnaud Joachim Morazan Eraso, leader del gruppo ambientalista di Guipinol, il gruppo che si sta opponendo a una miniera di ossido di ferro in Honduras. Una battaglia significativa, molto importante. È imperativo che venga immediatamente avviata un'indagine credibile e indipendente e che i responsabili siano chiamati a risponderne. In Honduras, in Bielorussia, in Iraq, in qualsiasi altra parte del mondo nessuno deve essere perseguitato per aver espresso le proprie opinioni. E questo è il messaggio che oggi vogliamo lanciare dal Parlamento europeo. Vi ringrazio e vi ringrazio per l'attenzione.
Wir fahren mit der Debatte über die Erklärung der Kommission zur Anpassung des Vertrages über die Energiecharta an den europäischen Grünen Deal nach der Erklärung von Präsident Sassoli über die Sakharov Preisträger fort. Und am Wort gemeldet ist Frau Laluk Aurore.
Président, chers commissaires, chers collègues, votre commission, la Commission européenne, notre commission a fait de la question écologique son projet phare à travers le Green Deal,